Hey everybody, how you doing? It is episode 25 of the Game Room Podcast. I'm your host, Rome, alongside my co-host, Dev.
Hey, what's up?
Dev, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Okay. Well, we got a lot to talk about. It's a really packed show, really packed week. We're going to be talking about Redfall, State of Xbox, the Phil Spencer interview that he did with Kinda Funny, and then we're going to talk Zelda, because I don't know if you know, but Tears of the
2
Kingdom
days.
is coming out this week.
Yeah, 2 days.
All right. Real quick, let's just jump into some quick news headlines. Not a lot going on, Honestly, it was kind of surprising. There wasn't a lot going on this week outside of Redfall and Zelda. If Redfall didn't turn out the way it did, there would not be a lot to talk about on this show, except for Zelda, which isn't out yet. So it's not even it wouldn't even be a news show. It would be us just talking about Zelda for an hour, which I would have been fine with, but unfortunately, here we are. But let's get right into it real quick with the headlines. We only got two today. Number one, some good news that happened on Xbox last week. You can now invite your friends to try Game Pass for free, PC Game Pass for free, if you are a PC Game Pass or Game Pass subscriber. Gaming is best with friends, says Xbox. So today they introduced, or last week, excuse me, they introduced the Xbox Game Pass friend referral program. Let's Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass members give up to 5 friends a free 14-day PC Game Pass trial. Invited friends must be new to Game Pass to redeem the trial. I thought this was weird that they didn't go with console and it's just PC to start. Maybe they want to see how it shakes out and see if it's beneficial to them before they go with the console version.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is cool. I think it's a great way to get people into the Game Pass service. I mean, handing out 2-week trials. I mean, but
First person I thought it was Forrest.
that's what I thought of too. I was like I should just email him a code and just damn it, just try it.
Yeah.
Because I know he wants to play Hi-Fi Rush. I don't think he's played that yet.
No, I don't think he has.
So maybe I'll see if he wants to get a code from me. Number 2 on the headlines: Assassin's Creed Mirage is rumored to be releasing in August of this year, according to a GameStop employee. This alleged GameStop employee revealed on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit which I don't know how much you would like. That's pretty dicey. That's the first time I've ever heard of this Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. Do you think people just go on there and be like, Mario 17 coming out tomorrow?
I accidentally came across that.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm not subscribed to that one. I don't know if I could trust it that much.
The validity of that is like, hey, here's a public space for you to just go start rumors.
Yeah, it feels like a spot where people just put their hopes and dreams and call it a leak.
Yeah, well, anyway, Insider Gaming thought it was substantial enough to report on it. This employee does say that Assassin's Creed is going to come out in August. The post came alongside an image allegedly taken from GameStop's internal systems showing the image of Mirage's targeted release date. And if you're looking at the screen right now, you can see what looks like, it's on there. It says August.
I'm down with that.
Yeah, I mean, that also is just a GameStop projection. I mean, you never know. Back in December, Insider Gaming reported that Assassin's Creed Mirage is targeting an August 2023 release date. So that's probably why Insider Gaming is reporting it, because it kind of backs up their previous reporting. All right, let's go over to the chat real quick. TJ's here. We're early. Yeah, my work schedule kind of screwed us here today, but it's okay. Glad you're here, TJ. Anyways, that's it for the gaming headlines. Like I said, very quick. Let's jump right into the game releases for this week. Relatively slow week in the game releases. Starting today, Darkest Dungeon 2 comes out on PC. Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, comes out on PS5 on May 9th. That was already out on Switch. I believe it came out last year. Lord of the Rings, Heroes of Middle-earth comes out on iOS and Android on the 10th. Death or Treat comes out on PS5, Xbox Series, PC on May 11th. Marvel's Midnight Suns gets its last-gen ports on PS4 and Xbox One on the 11th. And that's about it. That's it for the game releases. There's nothing else coming out this week that would be of substantial note to anybody.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. On May 12th, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I can't wait for us to talk about Zelda. We're gonna talk about Zelda in a little bit, but we got to get through some. I figure we would end with Zelda because that's the fun stuff. We're gonna end with the fun stuff. But yes, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. TJ's at work. Lots of Xbox news, eh? Yes, lots of Xbox news, TJ. Anyways, yeah, so that is it for the game releases. Devroro, I'm guessing Zelda's your pick of the week.
Yeah, either that or like Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, right. I was really looking forward to Lord of the Rings: Heroes of Middle Earth on my iOS already.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's the game I'm looking for.
Yeah, you're gonna put hours into that one.
No, obviously, and yes, I did ham it up today, and I wore a Zelda shirt and a Zelda hat. But I love The Legend of Zelda so much, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So, getting a mainline Zelda release is a huge deal. Every like 6 years at this point. So, very, very excited. But first, let's talk about Redfall. So, Dev, we finished up our podcast last week as Redfall was dropping, and we were kind of speculating based on a few reviews that accidentally broke embargo and then were taken down, and we were a little worried. Redfall released to low reviews and overall disappointment for fans. Most outlets have said that the game is straight up bad, not even broken, although there are glitches and bugs, but bad, which is worse than any buggy game can be.
Yeah.
It's currently, as of last night, when I pulled the score, the Metacritic score was sitting at 59 on Xbox Series, well, just Xbox. Some of the key issues with the game: empty world, copy and paste, including a lack of enemies, a weak narrative, a low budget feel. A lot of the reviewers were saying that like there's no cutscenes, there's no like real dialogue between like the characters. All of the budget for the marketing. They put all the budget in the marketing. There's no cutscenes. It's all like 2D. It feels very low budget, not like a AAA title. Lack of variety in missions, brain dead AI, general bugs, texture popping issues, bad co-op system, like no cross progression. So it's like if we're playing and you come join my game and we play for 10 hours and we make this progression, you don't get that progression, just I do. Poor controls, gunplay. I was not able to play Redfall this week. I was trying to make an attempt to get some hours in so I could like give my own take on it.
Yeah.
But unanimously across the board and all the content that I've looked at this week, this seems to kind of just be like what the game is. So Deborah, I want to open up with this conversation and ask you, what do you think happened with Redfall?
I don't know. I remember when we were talking about the one leak. There was a leak that was going around about Redfall, or just I think it was. I don't remember what it was about, but the guy who also leaked that, he said that Redfall and Starfield were in a kind of a development hell kind of thing, and I didn't want to believe it. And after seeing this, it's kind of like if it wasn't in development hell. I don't know what else went wrong. It was this division. I remember when I watched the interview, it seemed like this was the vision for the game.
Yes.
But I don't know why. I don't know why it's like this. I don't know why it's empty. I don't know why the AI is so bad. When I don't know, they're not used to putting out games like this. So
yeah. Now, so have you caught on any of the reviews? Have you been kind of looking at the content going on around there?
a little bit.
Okay.
I watched Game Ranks. I like their stuff, and they had this before you buy. And he talked about the game, and he was just saying how
Before you buy is good. I like
yeah,
Game Ranks.
and
Skill Up had a really good review for it. I really recommend that one.
I'll check that one out too.
That's a really good one.
But they're basically saying the world's empty. The AI is really bad, except for the best part of the game are the vampires, but you don't see them that often, and even their AI is not that good.
Yeah, a lot of the gameplay I saw, it looks like you're just trying to hit them, but they're so quick in the way they zigzag around that the gunplay just doesn't work. And Skill Up says in his review that some people would say, like, oh, just turn the sensitivity up to hit them. And he said, but there's no aiming sensitivity. It's just overall sensitivity. So it doesn't work. Yeah, it's a real shame. It really is. So my next question for you: do you think a delay of Redfall would have helped?
I think so. I think that they didn't want to delay it a second time because that looks really bad. But I do think a delay would have helped. And I think they're going to work on this game, and I think this game is going to end up being good in the long run. I just don't think they were ready to put it out, and they had to put it out.
See, I don't know if a delay would have helped at this point, to be honest. I
You don't
mean,
think so?
no, I mean, like, there are some bugs. There are some
Yeah,
bugs.
and GameRig said that there are bugs, but the bugs aren't the issue.
No, it's a foundational
Yeah,
level. It's an
yeah.
issue on a foundational level where the game is just very bare bones. The world's very uninteresting. Um, I know, and that's the thing. So you're running a 10-minute video of straight bugs on the
And
B-roll,
that's not even the.
and that's not even the issue.
Yeah.
That's not even the issue. Phil says during the Kind of Funny interview where it's like, our
You
crash
kinda
rates
expect.
are what we expect.
Yeah.
They're in a new release. They're very minimal. I mean, there is some texture issues, but the problem with the game comes is again, it's a foundational level where it just doesn't play well. Um,
And it's weird. So I actually heard that the gunplay, I didn't know about the sensitivity thing, but other than that, I heard the gunplay is not that bad.
I heard it's not bad, but I heard that with the enemies that exist, it is bad.
Okay.
That was my general. And again, unfortunately, the way this week played out, and I'm still just trying to finish Advance Wars before Zelda. I'm trying to clear my plate before Zelda, so I didn't have time to play Redfall myself. I installed it, just couldn't get around to it because of time constraints. But um, again, like I've watched a lot of content, both like on my way to and from work and on break at work, and when I come home. Like, I watched a lot of content this week about Redfall, and there are way too many people saying the exact same thing for me to not give it the benefit of the doubt of that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like so on the B-roll, yeah, like so those enemies that he's fighting right now with the hood is like if you piss off the vampires enough, they send this guy after you, and all you got to do is just jump on like a dumpster or a car, and they can't get you, and you just chip away at them.
The one person's just standing right behind them, and
Yeah.
they've.
Yeah, so it's a real shame. It sucks to see. Um, yeah, exactly. And so like I understand that like a delay would have helped, but I just think that again, like like okay, so it's kind of like what we talked about with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I am not a believer in that game. I am super out on it. It's not the kind of game that I think not Arcane, I'm sorry, Rocksteady should be making. It's not the kind of game that I'm going to enjoy from them. So I'm out on it. And they delayed it, but that delay is not going to fix my problems with it. They're going to polish it. They're going to fix a few little things, but overall, it's going to be the same game.
Yeah, you don't like the gameplay like aspect of it. Yeah.
Right. I think Redfall is a very similar thing where it's like, yeah, you could have cleaned up some things. You could have made it so the AI spawns more, the AI is a little bit smarter. You could do it so there's more zombies on the map. There are things you could do that could make the experience a little bit better. But it just seems for me that it's just a fundamentally flawed game. It's, the concept is there, but it's just not executed well.
But I do think I still believe that a delay would have helped this game. I think they should have delayed it because a lot of the issues seem fixable, especially for this developer.
Hmm.
You see these character models, they're just gray. They're not done. This was not even close to finished.
Yeah, like it just seems like if they had took the time, if they had taken more time, they could have filled out the world better. They could have made the AI smarter. They could have made the game more, I don't know, like an arcade game.
So here's the next question.
Look at that. That thing is a full world. It's very beautiful. You move from one spot to the next, and the environment changes. The enemies kind of change. It just feels full.
Yeah, real quick over in the chat, TJ says if Redfall was given to Ubisoft, Montreal/Toronto, who made Far Cry 5, this game would have been special. Ubisoft again don't get enough credit for making top quality games. Open world games are hard. I mostly agree. I mean, I think that the Far Cry developer probably would have done a great job with this aesthetic and this concept and this vibe. But so I mean, this leads me to my next question: what you had said about the delay.
But I agree with TJ. The only thing is, if someone had told me, I mean, like during the development of this, and it's like, oh, Arcane's making this open world vampire game, I was excited because that just seems like something Arcane could do.
I was too. We talked about it all the months. We've been doing the show for. You've been on the show probably for like what 2 months at this point, a little bit longer. We've been talking about Redfall a lot. We were very excited for Redfall. So to see it kind of come out in this, as it is, it really sucks. So my next question, piggybacking off of I was talking about the delay. So especially knowing that Microsoft have shown that they have no issue in delaying games. We saw it like they delayed Halo Infinite, which was launching with the series consoles. They delayed that out by like a year.
Yeah.
They delayed Starfield. They delayed Redfall previously by about 13 months. Why do you think that Microsoft didn't want to further delay Redfall?
I think, and we talked about this before with Ubisoft. When you delay a game a certain amount of times, one, you lose interest, and two, that doesn't look good for the game. That doesn't look good for the company as a whole. Ubisoft has been delaying. I mean, when a game gets delayed for a certain amount, I think it would have been, if they had delayed it again, I don't think it would have came out till next year, and that would have been, what, a 3-year delay from its original dropping point. That
Yeah.
doesn't look good for a game, doesn't look good for a company. Also, Microsoft doesn't really have anything big to put out. They have Starfield coming out, which now I'm a little bit I'm more nervous about that game. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would have helped if they delayed the game. Probably another year, honestly.
So my viewpoint on it isn't even about a delay necessarily, but Coach Dick coming into the chat, hoping we have a good show. He's excited for the Madden 24 beta next month. Thanks, Coach, for dropping by. Also a chance for EA to make a good game where NFL dropping them. Yeah, that would be nice. I would love for the NFL to drop EA. That would be incredible. My thought with Redfall isn't even necessarily that the game needed to be delayed. My thought with Redfall is, how does Xbox let this game ship?
Yeah.
Like obviously they have QA testers. They do mock reviews, which we're going to talk about when we get to the Phil Spencer interview, because he does touch on the mock reviews and why they were also surprised by the response, which who the hell mock reviewed this game for you? But like, this is the first $70 first party Xbox title.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
Yeah.
Let me put something into perspective for you. The last first party game that PlayStation put out was God of War Ragnarok. The next Nintendo first party game coming out is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And this is what Xbox is going to put out.
Yeah.
And like, here's the thing, right? Like, we talk about it. And I want all three to do well. And I'm also very fair. I love all three of the companies, but I'm always going to be fair about it. I am going to say that I have issues with PlayStation and their scummy business practices. I am going to talk about how Nintendo just hates their fans for some reason, for inexplicable reasons. And I'm going to bring these things up. But at the same time, as much as I love Xbox and the ecosystem and Phil and the vision and all of those things, like, this was an unacceptable release from them. This was just absolutely unacceptable.
It feels desperate. It feels like they had to get this game out because they thought if they didn't, they would look bad. And it seems the opposite.
And I just think that, like, the state of Xbox now is just in such a weird place because of Redfall, because this year was supposed to be a big year, and it still can be by all metrics.
Yeah.
Like, the year started off really strong. You know, you have that Microsoft Direct, the developer Direct, excuse me, and it was such a great thing. It was such a positive thing, and hopefully they're going to keep doing them in the future. And then they put out Hi-Fi Rush and Age of Empires 2 Definitive, and even some smaller stuff, like they finally get that GoldenEye port figured out, and that releases. And all these games are being met very well by their communities. And then looking forward, you have Forza, which it's going to be great. Turn 10 always does a great job with Forza, whether it's your wheelhouse or not. They're very good games. And I think that Starfield is going to be great as well. I'm not necessarily nervous about Starfield, but I do have a point about Starfield that I'll get to in a little bit. My thing, actually, no, I'll just get to it now. I think that whether fair or not, the expectations and the burden right now is so strongly on Starfield that I'm not concerned about the game itself. I'm concerned of, can the game undo all the bad will that Redfall did? That's my concern. I'm really not concerned about it being a bad game. I don't know if it's going to launch at 60 frames. Phil said that we will get very clear communication whether it's going to be 60 frames or not.
Again, to me, that seems like such a.
He was asked that, though.
But it seems like such a smaller issue. Like, the game has to be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this game, Starfield has to come out and it has to be a 10 out of 10 game, or else Microsoft is in trouble. Xbox is in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what else is big. What else they have big coming after Starfield? Starfield is a pillar. I don't know.
Yeah, TJ in the chat says they couldn't delay it due to consistency and incompetence being thrown at them. Again, they didn't have to announce these games would come out within a year. Self-inflicted wounds, as Phil said. Yeah, we will talk about the Kind of Funny interview coming up in a little bit. Coach is going to keep us on while he's driving. Have a good show, good Monday. Thanks, Coach. Yeah, inconsistency, says TJ. And in the Jeffrey Vegas in the chat says also, why put this game out in April? This would have been a great Halloween game. I think the reason that it came out when it did, in terms of like the year itself, is they want to do one game a quarter. That's very important to Phil. And again, we'll talk about the Kind of Funny interview, but he talks about that as well. But that would have been why Redfall came out when it did, because they're probably going to have Forza next quarter and then Starfield the last quarter of the year. I think that's why the game launched when it did. Because Starfield has to go in at the holiday season. That's their big game. That's the game for them. So I would say that this is the worst week between this and the CMA blocking the acquisition. This is the worst week Xbox has had since the reveal of the Xbox One.
You think so?
I think so, absolutely. I think that it's one thing to show like, hey, we're working on it, we're getting there. Games take time. It's a process. You've got to be patient. Like, that's one thing. But for you to come out and have this week where it's like, so you've been putting all of your focus on the CMA, for better or worse, which now there's a big discussion of like, are they focusing too much on the Activision Blizzard acquisition? You have that blocked, which it's not dead in the water yet, but obviously it's a big step backwards. And then you have Redfall come out, and this is what you get. Like, there were people on Twitter, wrongfully so, calling for Phil Spencer's job, and I don't think that is that's absurd. That's too much.
That's why I do disagree. I don't think it's as bad as the release of Xbox One. I don't think it's that bad.
No, that's what I'm saying. The only other week that really comes to mind is that Xbox One reveal, because that Xbox One reveal, and Phil talks about that as well in it's a really good Phil interview from Kind of Funny, and we're going to talk about it. But you look at that Xbox One reveal at E3, and it's just, man, that's screwed them for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that this week is worse, but I'm saying it's the worst week since. I can't think of another week other than the Xbox One reveal where it was like, damn, this is a really bad week for Xbox.
I think the CMA thing's probably worse than.
But that's what I'm saying. It's the same week. Yeah. It's the 1-2 punch in this week where it's like, man, it's just not where we want it to be.
I think this game is going to be better. I think it's going to be too late at that point. I don't think it'll really do much for Xbox by the time it is better. But
look, if I were them, and it sucks to say it, I would meet whatever obligations you have for content, whether season pass or whatever it is, because I think it does have a season pass. Meet your obligations for that content, and then just get out of Redfall. Like it didn't work. Arcane wanted to try something new, and I think that at the end of the day, it was kind of their undoing. I mean, they had this vision, and they just couldn't make this vision that they had come to life, or the vision that they had just wasn't good enough, which sucks to say, and Xbox is always going to support the vision of the creators, but it's just a fact. It's what it is, and
I think it was a good idea, just bad execution.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want a vampire game with 3 of your friends. Nothing about that sounds bad. Like an open world exploration, a vampire game, multiplayer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it sucks. The world wasn't it seemed very empty. A lot of the reviews were like, there's just these little Post-it notes around, and like that's great. But the problem is when you're playing co-op, your friends don't want to stand around while you read a Post-it note. You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the vision just lined up at all.
It's also, I think it's their first multiplayer game. I mean, definitely has a multiplayer mechanic.
Yeah.
But this is their first multiplayer game, and I think there's a balance that they have to find. That's why I don't think they should give up on this game, personally.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Real quick in the chat, everybody who's watching, we appreciate you. If you can hit the like button, that would be really helpful to us. Get us up to 10 today. That would be great. Looks like we got 6 people hanging out here now. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. TJ says, I think it's a bad week from a fan base point of view, but the worst week this gen was delaying Starfield and Redfall. That signified Xbox would have no first-party games whatsoever. Disaster. So I disagree with that. I think that I'm always of the opinion that it's okay to delay a game. Now, obviously, there's a line to that. where Skull and Bones is crossed that line where it's like 8 years and you're still delaying it. That's too much. But with Starfield and Redfall, I think that those delays weren't in that window yet of, oh wow, this has been delayed like for multiple years.
Was that their first delay? Was that Starfield's first delay?
Yeah, well, so Starfield was supposed to come out last
last November.
November. Last November it was supposed to come out, and then they just pushed it back by a year. And I think that's fine. I don't think that's an issue. And like again, I'm not saying that that wasn't a bad week, but at the end of the day, I want good games. Like, and others don't have this luxury. But me personally, and I'm just speaking from my perspective, there are a lot of games that come out, and I play games a lot. I play a lot of video games from a lot of different places. I have all three of the consoles. I'm okay. Like when Zelda got pushed back. Obviously, I wasn't happy about it, but at the end of the day, I'd rather Tears of the Kingdom be the game that it can be and should be, as opposed to getting it a year and a half earlier. Like that's just not what I want. So I'm okay with Starfield and Redfall getting pushed back by, excuse me, a year. I think it's okay to do that because that's what we're looking at. Redfall got delayed by 13 months. Starfield got delayed by 10 months because it was supposed to come out last November. Now it's coming out, I think, September, right? That's the date, September. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
it comes out. It's competing against Spider-Man, which that's also not why Redfall's failure is also not very good.
No, I agree with that. I agree that a delayed game isn't necessarily bad. You know?
Yeah, I agree, Shigeru.
Yeah. I'm thinking of that quote.
Yeah, that quote. It's a great
Yeah.
quote. It's one of the best quotes of all time in game
A
development.
delayed game is eventually good, but a bad game is bad forever.
Yeah, you launch a game and it sucks. Guess what? It sucks.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And the perception's there. The perception of a bad game launching is worse than a game getting delayed. Like that's just what it is. Like that shows that they have the time and the care to say, okay, well, this game is not good right now, and we're not going to put out a bad game, so we're going to take the time we need to make it good.
Yeah.
The problem is, it didn't happen here. They delayed it, and it was bad. So that's why it comes off that way. So Dev, I want to ask you: would you say is your confidence in Xbox shaken? Like, where are you at right now with your trust of Xbox as a brand?
I think in a way, I think this is going to end up being a good thing for them. They needed kind of like a slap in the face kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a lot right now. And just let your studios do what they do. Let them put out the games they want to put out when it's ready. Otherwise, it's a waste.
So again, I mean,
it seems like they're letting, like one thing about Sony, you can hate Sony all you want. They give their developers time.
Sure.
They give, and I think Xbox, and I'm not saying Xbox doesn't do that. I think it just has to be more consistent. On the other side of that, though, they were surprised that it was this bad. That's a little confusing to me.
Which we'll get into. I do have some quotes from the Kind of Funny interview in a little bit. We're almost at that.
Yeah, so maybe they gave them the time, and everyone thought this game was going to be better. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
So I mean, like I said, I'm always gonna be honest about it. As much as I love Xbox and the ecosystem, I wouldn't say that my trust in them is necessarily shaken or I've lost confidence in them. I still believe in Phil. I still believe in their vision. I do think, however, that this was unacceptable. I think that there needs to be some accountability, and obviously, Phil, as you heard in the Kind of Funny interview, Phil's gonna take it all on him. He's gonna the dude's a true blue leader. He's 100%. There's no deflection really during his interview about Arcane. There's no deflection about Matt Booty, which that's the guy that's usually checking on these studios. I need to know what the hell Matt Booty was doing while this is all going on.
Yeah.
He's the one that I would really like to get some words from because that's his job. You know what I mean? Phil's the head of Xbox. His job is to delegate to this middle management. And TJ and I have talked in the past, about Xbox, and I think it comes down to what's going on with this middle management team that Phil has beneath him. Phil could be a great leader and a great manager and whatever, but this is speaking from experience in management. If your middle management below you isn't doing what they need to do, then that's going to lead to issues. Phil can't be everywhere and doing all these things. Phil can't do all this stuff. He's got a lot of things on his plate as head of Xbox.
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, you have a hardcore Xbox console user base. I'm not even going to talk about the streaming guys. I'm not going to talk about the PC guys. I'm not going to talk about any of them. I'm talking about the Xbox console user base that have spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars and beyond on this generation and further down the line or further, whatever you want to say in the past. And I just think it's a slap in the face to this user base, and I need them to do better. And TJ does chime in that Matt Booty focuses on Xbox Studios, Bethesda runs Bethesda, and that's fair. That's a fair thing to say. But at the end of the day, then I need to see some changes in the structure here because Bethesda can operate independently, but at the end of the day, if you're putting out Redfall, then that's an issue then Pete Hines or Todd Howard or somebody at Bethesda really needs to be reined in a little bit here because it was okay with Fallout 76, but now you're a first-party AAA developer / publisher, whatever you want to call it. The bar is raised. Like, you can't just put out Redfall in the state it's in.
Yeah.
And
this does look worse on Xbox than it does Arcane. I think
it does, but the problem is it is Arcane's fault because in the Kind of Funny interview, Phil says that like when they came in and bought Bethesda, they didn't give a lot of support to Redfall because of where they thought, to their perception, the stage of development where they were. They gave them funding to finish the game, but that was pretty much all that they gave. Whereas Phil said that with Starfield, they've given more support to Bethesda. They've worked more with Bethesda, which I guess you could argue like, well, this is a first-party game for you. Even if Arcane made it, you probably should be paying attention to it. That's fair. And again, I don't think anybody's completely free from blame.
It's like you said before. How does Xbox let this game go out? How do you sit down and play this game and say this is ready?
Yeah. Well, Mock Reviewer thought so. Fire that man. I don't know who it is. We'll get into that. He's like, shit, my career is over. And TJ says, yeah, we could judge Matt Booty at the end of the year if Hellblade comes out. Like, okay, yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. I would like to see them. I would like to see them do better, regardless, Bethesda or not. And you'll see with the showcase in June, it is no longer the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. It is the Xbox showcase. So again, we got to incorporate this a little bit. We gotta figure that out. Excuse me. But yeah, whether it's fair or not, I think the expectation on Starfield is huge. It needs to be a home run. Mm-hmm. It absolutely needs to be a home run at this point. Let's go over to the chat. Unknown error. It had an update a little while ago. Would have liked to know what the hell they fixed, but Xbox won't tell you. Yeah, I mean, it's just a baffling thing all around. And it sucks to see with Redfall. It really does. It's like we were talking about this game for months, and we were both very excited to play this game and see it kind of come out as it did. And to be fair, I am going to play it at some point because I want to see it for myself. And who knows? Like
by the time you play it, it might be better.
That's what I'm hoping because obviously I'm about to dive into Zelda this week, and who knows how long that's going to be.
So I looked up the patch notes for the patch that released today.
Yeah.
There's only 3 notes.
Okay.
2 of them are gameplay. They fixed an infinite loading screen issue.
Okay.
And they fixed a save system crash that resulted from suspending and resuming gameplay.
Okay.
And fact travel across the map. And then they also did something with the servers.
Okay. So, I mean, again, it seems like right now they're just fixing the bugs that exist.
Yeah, you got to do that first.
Yeah, I know you have to. But also, it's going to take time for them to fundamentally change this game. And that's why I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think it makes sense for them to do it. I think it makes sense for them to move on to their next project. Like I get wanting to make a game good in the long run and being committed to your games. The
reason I think you have to fix this game is because if you're going to move forward and you're going to do more multiplayer games as Arcane, you have to get this down. You can't leave this in the trash and just work on your next. You know what I mean? Fix this no matter what it takes. Let it be a year. I think they're also working on a Magic game, aren't they? Like a Skyrim-esque type game, Arcane.
No, you're thinking of Avowed, and that's Obsidian.
That's Obsidian, okay.
Which I have total confidence in Obsidian.
Oh, yeah.
Obsidian has been just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about like the other. Let's be a little positive for a second. Obsidian has been the best acquisition for Xbox. Period. Like there has been, like we could discuss it, and obviously Starfield can change that narrative. But like when you look at the work that Obsidian has done in the time under Xbox, Wasteland 3. The Outer Worlds, Pentiment, which got perfect 10s last year, even though it was a niche game, scored very well.
Grounded, which is like
Grounded, which is a whole big thing now.
Yeah.
The only game from Obsidian that did not do well was Bleeding Edge, and like that was just 3 developers on the team, I think, just trying some crazy idea they had. Which again, I appreciate Xbox's vision, and that's why it really hurts to see Redfall do this because, and it's said during the Kind of Funny interview with Gary Whitta where he's like, when new IPs fail, when AAA new IPs fail in the games industry, everybody loses because now that means that it's one step more closer to the argument of, well, we just got to keep making sequels. And I'm not saying Xbox is going to take that stance, but you see it for PlayStation. They don't put out a lot of new IP. It's usually like, okay, this is our franchises, and we're going to stick to these tentpole franchises. And it's not a bad thing because the games are incredible. But we saw it last year with the news that came out from the what's the name of the developer that made the zombie game? I'm having a brain fart right now. I forget what it was, but it underperformed. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of this game right now. It underperformed, and the studio wanted to make a new game, but Sony was like, no, you guys are going to help with the Last of Us remake. And it's like, that sucks, because they had this vision.
Oh, I know what game you're talking about.
What game was that called? I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of that game. It was the zombie game where you play as the biker.
Motorcycle, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What was it called? Look it up for me, please. I'm having the worst brain fart. But yeah, like, so...
Days Gone.
Days Gone, thank you. But so that was, like, you don't want to see that because that's going to be a bigger argument for, PlayStation and even Xbox to justify not trying new things. And I think that sucks.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into this Phil Spencer interview. So Phil went on Kind of Funny, and number one, as they even say during the interview, Phil did not need to do this interview. Phil was clearly scheduled to go on there because they announced the Xbox showcase on June 11th. And he was probably also going to talk about Redfall in a good way. But instead, this was what really ended up being, in my opinion, the most candid and the best interview I've ever seen from a video game executive. I can't think of any interview that was more like on the level, completely honest. Like, there are things here, like Phil is clearly taking it on the chin. This is something, I don't know. I was very impressed with this interview. And even though there are some things in this interview I do not agree with, which we'll get into. But let's start with the first. I'm using VGC for the quotes and stuff just to kind of run through because there's a lot.
Yeah.
So first up, the first article from VGC is about Phil Spencer apologizing for disappointing Redfall and claiming Xbox was expecting better reviews. And so at the time of the publishing from VGC, the co-op shooter had user scores of 2.6 and 1.9 out of 10 on Metacritic. Addressing Redfall's disappointing reception in a new interview with Kind of Funny Games, Microsoft's head of gaming claimed that the platform holder did not expect such a negative reception of the game, citing internal mock reviews, which allegedly suggested it could have received much higher scores. He also suggested that delaying the game further, it was originally due out in 2022, would not have solved its biggest issues. Quote, "There's nothing more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community," Spencer said. "I've been part of it for a long time. I obviously work on Xbox. I'm head of the business. I have a lot of friends and get a lot of feedback, and it's just to kind of watch the community lose confidence, be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself." He goes on to add, "We do mock reviews for every game that we launch, and this is a double digits lower than where we thought we would be with this game. That's one of the most disappointing things. We would never strive to launch a game that we thought was going to review in the low 60s. It's not part of our goals." So he says that they was going to launch. This mock review that they did, the mock reviews, had it scoring double digits higher.
Yeah.
I need to know.
Yeah.
I need to see this review, and we never will. That's not how it works.
We never will, but that's the confusing part for me is Microsoft knew what this game was. Phil Spencer knew what this game was. Arcane knew what this game was, and they're all surprised at how it turned out.
Xbox is clearly surprised by this. It was clearly a shock for them.
Yeah.
And I need to talk,
That's why it's hard to point blame if everyone in the room thought it was good.
Yeah, if the mock reviewer's like, yeah, man, this is an 80. Yeah. That's an 85 out of 100. This is an 8 out of 10 game right here.
Yeah.
This bad boy's going to do great for you. It's like, It's like, okay, I mean, I can kind of sympathize. I mean, at the end of the day, they still should be playing the game themselves and seeing these things.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't aware, like this is not something new. Games always have mock reviewers. That's why you see games like sometimes review embargoes get kind of weird, where it's like, oh, there is no review embargo, or there's this, there's that, right? You'll see that, and so like everybody does these mock reviews, and so it's very interesting to see this mock review be as wrong as it was. It's really unfortunate for them. Phil goes on to state, if you look at our review scores over the past year, and this is not a defense at all, I think the teams have done a much better job in upping the level of quality of the games we've shipped. And this game was significantly below our internal metrics, compared to where it actually reviewed. But that's not on anybody but us. We have to own that. Spencer was asked generally about how it decides whether a game should be delayed, and the exec said Xbox wouldn't push a project back if it didn't believe it could realize its creative vision as a result. Goes on to quote, there are quality issues, and we're working on those, but a fundamental piece of feedback I get from Redfall reviews is that the game isn't realizing the creative vision that it had for its players. That doesn't feel like a, hey, let's just delay it. That feels like a game had a goal to do one thing when players are actually playing. They're not feeling that. When a game needs to be delayed, like what we did with Starfield, Halo, and Redfall, because the production timeline is saying we have this vision and our production timeline doesn't get us to the completion of that vision, we do delay games. The exec went on to play down the number of technical issues in Redfall instead, claiming that the game's poor reception was mostly because the development team didn't hit its goals. Quote, learning about the quality, and I know there are bugs, I've seen them in Redfall, when I look at the crash rates of the game, because we get all the telemetry for everything, it's not out of proportion for a game that's just launched. It's kind of in the pocket of what we'd expect. That's not to deny any of the animation, streaming, or texture bugs, or AI bugs. We will go and work on those. But when I look at the review scores of this game, it's about did we have enough creative differentiation in our core idea, did we realize the creative ambition? I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Austin. Their track record is awesome. I love a lot of the games that they've built. This is one where the team didn't hit their own internal goals. I think it may be a bit simplistic to say, hey, maybe if you just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something than it was. Well, yeah, I mean, Phil says here that like it's the creative vision of the game. Like there were some bugs, but at the end of the day, like, what would delaying the game by another 3 or 4 months do for this game, realistically? You know?
Maybe it's maybe it's content. Maybe it's smarter enemies. Maybe it's.
I mean, I think the easiest fix that they could do, and I don't know how easy this is, I would ramp up the amount of enemies in the overworld. The overworld is very empty. Again, going back to Skill Up's review, because very good review by him.
But you can't just add enemies. You have to add. There has to be a reward. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, sure.
A reason you go into that building and kill those enemies. You can't just go clear out a building of enemies and move on to the next.
So Unknown Error says these goals are not usually set by the development team, so I don't know who we blame other than the head positions. And Unknown is right. I think that's a great point by him or them. Sorry, don't know. I think at the end of the day, the blame. That's why I said earlier, the blame kind of falls on everybody. I don't think that there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have a piece of the blame here. But I think when Phil says goals, Phil has goals from a business perspective, as he should, and he should have goals from a quality perspective. But I think when he says goals, I think he's talking about the creative vision of Arcane Austin. I think that's what he means when he says this. Just to comment on Error, because Error says like, well, Arcane shouldn't be setting these goals. I think the goals that he's referring to is they had a creative vision of a game being something that it was, and they just did not nail that vision. TJ says that we need to get together and chat sometime on a podcast. Yeah, we have to. Absolutely. We have to. So moving on. I look at them in different camps. If there's a production timeline issue, we've been open to delaying. If we have just more bugs than we should have at the end of the game, we're open to delaying. At some point, we need to do a creative vision and put the game out, and reviewers and players will tell us what they think. Spencer claimed that the Bethesda and developer Arcane will continue to support Redfall, as Rare had done with Sea of Thieves. In terms of our commitment to the game, absolutely the team at Arcane is taking the near-term feedback. We're still looking at the 60 FPS update We have a good timeline for that, and we're going to continue to work on the game. We've shown a commitment to games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded to continue and to build games. But I also know that these games are $70, and I'm going to take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great. We let down a lot of people this week with the launch of the game, but we will continue to strive. You have to. That's what creativity is all about. You have to continue to strive on. That's what creativity is all about. Later in the interview, Spencer was asked to reflect on the lessons Xbox could take from Redfall and its launch date. Spencer believes the platform holder should have done more in the game's early development in terms of providing assistance to Arcane. When we acquire studios, Phil says, there are games that are in development, and then there are things that either are really early in development or not even conceived yet. I think we need to improve on engaging with games that are midway through production when they become a part of Xbox, he said.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think there's a different expectation for a game and a team where you've been third party and all of a sudden you become first party. There's a different expectation in terms of how you're going to perform on our console, and I think there's a different competitive set when people look at that and say, hey, I want this game to feel as competitive as this other game on another console platform. And we didn't do a good job early in engaging Arcane Austin to really help them understand what it meant to be part of Xbox and part of first party, and use some of our internal resources to help them move along the journey faster. We left them to work on the game. They're a very talented team. I love the team, and I still do. I will totally bet on them to do another great game. But when Matt Booty and ZeniMax president Jamie Letter sit down, I think we engage earlier with our different studios. I think that there's difference when we come in when the creative is already set on a game. And that's not washing our hands of it. Every game we ship from our teams is an Xbox game, so we will take full responsibility for it. Spencer says he believes the platform holder did a better job with Starfield and that they've given more support. He says, we should have been there for Redfall, co-creative director Harvey Smith and the team earlier. I think that's on us. And then through the process, it's an Unreal Engine game. We have a bunch of studios that have done some really great work on Unreal over the years, and I think we were too late to help and with that in certain issues. Finally, on this, Spencer said that while there are clearly things that can be improved, Xbox Game Studios' product delivery process, he won't force development teams to stick to making the type of games they have a track record with. Yeah, he says, I think back to the announcement of 60 frames per second, and then we weren't shipping 60 frames. That was kind of a punch in the chin, rightfully so. And then we're seeing the game come out. The critical response was not what we wanted, and it's disappointing. So I kind of picked myself up and asked, what can we learn? How can we get better? One thing I'll fight in what went wrong. There's clearly quality and execution things that we can do. But one thing I won't do is push the creative aspirations of our teams. I know a lot of people will say, hey, you've got teams know how to do one kind of game. Just force them to do that one kind of game they have a proven track record of. And I'm just not a believer in that. Maybe that means I'll underdeliver for some of our fans out there. But when a team like Rare wants to do Sea of Thieves, when a team like Obsidian wants to do Grounded, when Tango wants to do Hi-Fi Rush, when everybody thinks they're doing Evil Within 3, I want to give the teams creative platform to go and push their ability, push their aspirations. But I also need to have a great selection of games that continue to come that surprise and delight our fans. And we underdelivered on that, and for that I apologize. It's not what I expect, not what I want, but it's ours to deliver. So I thought that this was a really candid response from Phil, and I really do appreciate that. And again, it's why it's so tough for Redfall to fail, because I have such belief in Phil and the Xbox mission statements. You know what I mean? The fact that hey, we have all these studios and we're gonna let them make the games they want to make, and that's okay, because some of them are gonna put out these big AAA games for us, and then some of them are gonna put out these smaller titles for us, like Hi-Fi Rush or Pentiment, and these games both reviewed super well. So again, that's why it's really frustrating to see the AAA sphere or the AAA game come out and fail, because I want to believe in Phil and I want to believe in the Xbox mission statement with Game Pass and Play Anywhere and great games every quarter, and it all sounds great. We just need to see it.
It sounds like that they trusted Arcane. I mean, you should trust your studios, obviously.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they trusted Arcane maybe too much, so they said, you know what, they haven't put out a bad game. Let them make this game. We'll work on Starfield. That's almost what it sounds like. That's why they weren't managed as well.
TJ in the chat, talking to Unknown Error, says about Xbox is giving them a lot of freedom, and that's the problem. They weren't managed. error, sees what they're saying. It just says lazy dev at Bethesda. Just saying they don't think there is a lazy dev at Bethesda with all the Easter eggs in Skyrim and Fallout in mind. And TJ thinks Arcane overshot. Open world games are difficult.
Yeah. I honestly don't think it's an open world thing. I think it's the multiplayer aspect that they probably put a lot of time in that, because this is their first multiplayer game. They've done open world games and they're all great,
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next part of this interview. Again, VGC helped out big here. Just making great games won't change Xbox console market share, says Phil Spencer. During the Kind of Funny Games XCast, Spencer was asked if Xbox has taken its eye off the console market by focusing too much on PC. In response, Spencer said Microsoft would be wrong to think that just building great console titles could help it overtake Sony and Nintendo in terms of hardware sales. Instead, it has chosen to pursue a different strategy to the Japanese companies, one focused on fulfilling developers' vision of enabling customers to play their games on any screen. Phil Spencer says, "We are not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't a really great solution or win for us, and I know that will upset a ton of people. But it's just the truth of the matter, and that when you're third place in the console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are, and in certain cases a very, very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team, PlayStation, that's on us and not anybody else." And we can just argue about that till the end of the.
Yeah,
I still think that the reports coming out the last few weeks that it's not that PlayStation is funding games to be exclusive on their platforms. They're signing deals saying you can't work with Xbox and paying. Like, that's too much for me. I'm sorry. And again, I'm going to keep it honest. That's disgusting. I think it's fucking gross. I would rather you work on your own games, or like if you're going to, like you said, if you're going to pay for Final Fantasy, I still disagree with it, but at least do that. That's not what the case is here. They are paying Square Enix not to work with Xbox, regardless of the games that are being made. And I think that's gross. But again, we can disagree.
I think it's gross. I think it's competition, and again, like you said, you should work on games. Microsoft make more and better games, and you don't have to worry about that issue. You don't have to worry about someone saying, "Hey, I'm not going to put this on your console," because it's your game.
Well, so
you own it.
I vehemently disagree with that, because at the end of the day, if Microsoft can make a game, but okay, for example, let's talk JRPGs for a second, and we could say whatever, the JRPG fan base on Xbox is non-existent. Yeah. I disagree. I think that there is a fan base on Xbox that wants JRPGs. They want all games. They want to play all games.
But like we said before, the fans who want JRPGs, those core fans, they have PlayStations.
Right, I understand that, but if you prefer an Xbox, I prefer an Xbox. If I couldn't afford all three consoles, because there are many people that can't, I would still be getting an Xbox before a PlayStation. Yes, PlayStation makes better games, but I like the Xbox ecosystem better. I like the UI better. I have a library on Xbox, which they do talk about.
That's true, but the core thing that you like the most on Xbox are their games. That's the number one. That's at the top of the list of what you like more about Xbox.
I like the fact that yes, the games that come out on Xbox, they are generally run better than PlayStation. And not only that, that's the third party sphere.
If you liked JRPGs,
but JRPGs. I just gave Octopath Traveler 2 a 10 out of 10.
I get that, but that's not your number one game. That's
my number one. Adventure is my number one.
It's like if you like shooters, if shooters are your favorite thing, you don't have. If you can have one console and shooters are your favorite, you're not going to get a PlayStation. You're going to get an Xbox. It's a type of game. It's
at the end of the day, Xbox flat out, even if they want to compete in the JRPG space, they can't, because the biggest names in the industry, in the JRPG industry, and correct me if I'm wrong, come from Square Enix. They are the number one JRPG developer, publisher, whatever you want to call it, in the world. And so that right there, by just straight up being like, okay, no new Final Fantasy games coming to Xbox ever. Like, how is Xbox supposed to compete in that realm? And like you could say, oh, they shouldn't. Well, no, they should.
No, they should.
All three of the console manufacturers, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, should be trying to do the best in every genre.
Yeah.
That's why when Call of Duty, when we were talking about Call of Duty possibly going exclusive to Xbox, my response to that was that Well, that's why PlayStation needs to create a shooter in that space to compete.
Absolutely.
Is that necessarily fair? You've argued that wasn't fair. So now we're talking the flip side. You need to keep the same argument.
No, I do. I agree that I think it's fair that the company should. I just don't. Okay, for the Call of Duty example,
yeah,
Call of Duty it's massive. It's Call of Duty.
So it's Final Fantasy. For its genre.
For its genre, yeah.
Exactly. Final Fantasy is the Call of Duty of JRPGs.
Okay, I agree with that.
And so I'm just pointing that out there that like if you have an issue with Call of Duty being exclusive, you should have an issue with Final Fantasy being exclusive because it is exclusive. Not because Sony's funding the games, because Sony's funding Square Enix to not put the games on Xbox. And then they take that money and they make some blockchain bullshit. But anyways, we're getting off topic. There isn't really a solution for us. Sorry, I already read that one. I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, then all of a sudden you're going to see us making great games. And my point is here, yes, you should do more than that, but like that needs to be the number one. Like you should not have a defeatist look on this where it's like, well, we can't just make great games and people are going to buy Xboxes. It's like, no, that's absolutely what will happen.
It's like I said, like they can have the best AI, the best UI of the systems, which I think they do. You have the best multiplayer, you can have the best online service. Your games have to be the best. You have to that's what sells.
Unknown Error says that they like Xbox better. They have Game Pass on Windows. Still a PlayStation console player for Gran Turismo and Demon's Souls. They just want to roll without exclusives.
I like the competition.
No, the competition's great, and that's the thing, and that's why I don't care who you are. Like you could be the biggest Sony pony, you could be the biggest Nintendo diehard who Nintendo snob. You could be whoever you are. You want all three to do well. If you don't like video games. At that point, you're just embracing tribalism, and that's what it is. When I sit here and I say that Sony's business dealings make me fucking sick to my stomach sometimes with how disgusting they are, that's because I don't want them to do them, and I want them to focus on making themselves better. I don't view that as good competition. I view that as just you want to shut down Xbox. You don't want to beat Xbox. You want to shut down Xbox, and I think that that's just not the way to look at it. That's me personally. We can disagree. That's fine. Yeah. But that's why I'm okay with Xbox not doing it. Although if PlayStation's going to keep doing it, I want Xbox to kind of man the fuck up and do it. If PlayStation's going to do it, I would say Xbox should probably do it too.
I agree with that. And I think it's when Japanese companies are like to work with other Japanese companies. That's kind of I feel like that's how it's always been. There's kind of a pride there, a Japanese pride.
I suppose, but
it's. I feel like Square Enix didn't even have to argue that much money out of Sony. It's.
Yeah.
Also, when you're exclusive to a console that's number one in the ecosystem, it's not a hard argument.
So Phil goes also on to say, we lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. So when you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our community to feel awesome. But this idea that if we just focus on more great games on our console, and that somehow we're going to win the console race, I think that doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Spencer claimed that 90% of the people who buy a console every year already own a PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox console, and their digital library lives on that ecosystem. This is the first generation where the big games they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, the continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today. There is no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. And again, I just completely disagree with the mindset here. And I understand it's a rough week for Phil. And Phil is he even says during the interview, he's like, this is grumpy Phil this week. And he's very realistic and honest. And, I just don't disagree with his take here.
I just hope this isn't a long-term mindset because
I don't think it is. I think he's sitting here after a bad week, just kind of reacting to what's going on. And I think he's trying to the problem is he's talking in a very macro sense where it's it is a battle of inches. He's correct in the thought process that PlayStation is number one in the market share right now. And I don't think Starfield is going to straight up be Starfield comes out, it's 11 out of 10. It's next year, it's people are screw this PlayStation. That's not what's going to happen. No. But at the end of the day, it's all about market share and it's all about perception. Perception's everything. If you're putting out banger after banger after banger, and you're putting out 10s and 10s and 9s and 9s and 8s and 10s, people are going to look at that and be like, damn, I got to get in on that. Like, there are going to be more people. Like, here's the thing. If you talk to a lot of PlayStation gamers, right, who are strictly PlayStation and don't own Xboxes, ask them how many of you own Nintendo Switches. A lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel very confident saying a lot of people own Switches and PlayStations and that's because they keep giving you a reason to need to buy one.
Yeah.
With the Wii U, you saw it, and this is kind of with the Wii U, there just wasn't a lot there, and the Wii U failed. Nintendo had it's not about market share necessarily. It's about putting out great games and chiseling away at it. If you put out Starfield and it's a 10 out of 10 game and 10,000 people go out and buy an Xbox, knowing that this is the quality they expect from Xbox, then that's 10,000 more people on your side.
I think even you, like we talked about it, Xbox is your go-to system.
It is.
Even if a game comes out on all three systems, you're going to get on Xbox because you want the achievements, you want this, you want that. There are games that are on PlayStation that you can't ignore that are exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you turn on your PlayStation for Horizon. You turn on your PlayStation for God of War. So there are games you can't ignore.
Exactly, and that's my point. Like, I know that there are people out there like me who just love video games and just want to play great games, and they may not be able to afford all three, but eventually maybe they can. I don't know. That's how life is, Maybe your birthday comes around and your family throws it together and gets you an Xbox because you really want one, or vice versa for PlayStation for Christmas. I don't know.
And the one thing I'll say about what he just said about people. When Starfield comes out, it's a 11 out of 10 game. People are not going to throw out their PlayStations. That is true. But people will go out and buy an Xbox.
Exactly. 100%. Completely agree with you. I think, and TJ says it here, Phil is venting pretty much at this point. He doesn't believe what he's actually saying.
So.
I do think so. I don't think that he's sitting there in a boardroom being like, it doesn't matter if the game's great or not. I don't think that's true. Because
that wasn't the Phil Spencer that started. Remember when we started, he was like, games. It's all about games.
And I think he still is.
I hope so.
Yeah, I just think that he's trying to tamper expectations here. I think that people are looking at Redfall as a disappointment, and he's like, look, guys, if Redfall had been a 10 out of 10, it wouldn't change the console shit. We're not out consoling Sony here, and I don't know.
There is a such thing as system sellers,
There is, and they need to do that. And he goes on to talk about install base on phones, and they want to find customers elsewhere along with console. And I respect the vision, but it kind of what I said earlier, you need to make sure that your console focus is happy, your console foundation.
Yeah.
They're your repeat customers. They're your big buck customers. You could talk about how, and we talked last week, 20 years from now, maybe Xbox's core focus is the streaming because that's just where they're at. That's where the industry's at. But right now, that's not where we're at. Mm-hmm. And yes, you should definitely make streaming as best it can be, but you can't just be like, well, our focus is going to be mobile streaming and PC. Which again, that PC audience for you is going to help you, and it's big. And I understand that
no, you definitely should not ignore PC.
Don't ignore PC.
It's as big as Xbox at this point.
But
mostly everything that runs on Xbox runs on PC.
Right.
So you're going to keep that.
Yeah.
It's the phones, it's the mobile stuff, and the cloud stuff that's a little. I mean, look at Google Stadia.
It failed.
Yeah, cloud's just not there yet.
Yeah. Some last quotes about this. He says, we have this unique vision because we see what creators do. Creators want to build games that meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they're on. And the console is the core of the Xbox brand. There's no doubt. So we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. But I know some people want to hold us up as being a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say that there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud and the way we build our games. And I think this last quote is kind of a better way to put it, where he's like, we want to do our own thing. We don't want, they want to go the Nintendo route where they want to do their own thing, but at the end of the day, they need to make great games. And they do. He does say that. He's like, we need to build our games this way. The Xbox console is our core focus, and that can't change.
But I think, again, it's the games.
I agree.
Nintendo does their own thing because they have a catalog of games they can just put out, and we know it's going to be great.
All right, let's get into the last third of this interview, which was originally the reason Phil definitely went on this show. Was the 2022 showcase, which is on June 11th.
Yeah, I think from now on it's all positive. From here on out for the rest of the podcast.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I have some final thoughts, but like, yeah. All right, so during the show, Paris Lilly, the Kind of Funny XCast show, Paris Lilly talked about the previous showcase, which took place in June 2022. I guess we are going to start a little negative here. He says, last year, during the showcase, you had a 12-month plan, Lilly said. You didn't necessarily deliver on all the games. Spencer interrupts and says, no, we didn't deliver. There's no necessarily, we didn't deliver. And again, I appreciate Phil for the honesty here. Phil could have just like let the compliment, like the low key, like fly, but no, he's like, no, like we said we were going to put out these games in 12 months, and we failed. We did not do that, and that's not okay. Lilly lists a bunch of games: Avowed, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, State of Decay 3, Contraband, and he's asking about getting updates on these games. Spencer says, I'm not going to try to oversell the showcase here, because if I was on the other side watching this, it's like, hey, after Redfall, I'm going to put my hands on the controller, and that's what it's going to take to prove it to me. Mm-hmm. But that's not what this showcase is. Unfortunately, it's a showcase. Excuse me. So I'm very enthusiastic about Showcase. We're going to announce some things that people haven't seen, some new games, and we're going to give updates to some of the things that were on Paris Lilly's list. He added, the other thing that gets me really excited is when I look forward over the next quarters, which has always been my focus. How do we get a big game out every quarter at quality, that things are lining up finally after some slowdown through COVID? I'm tired of talking about that, though, but I can now see that we've got games coming every quarter, and I think this will surprise and delight our customers. And during the interview, because you watched it, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, we're so close. Like, you could see him feel it. Like, he sees the vision.
Yeah.
Phil sees what's coming.
Yeah. And
he's like, we are so close, guys. Like, Redfall was supposed to be this first one, and it just didn't land. He says, we still have to deliver on creative, though. We have to deliver on the technical. Not every game we ship is for everybody. We know that. I'm not trying to build the one game to rule them all. We will have different creative takes, and we have a very diverse portfolio when you think about the stuff that Microsoft Game Studios builds. But I like that. I think what we're trying to do as Xbox, which isn't to mimic any of the other platforms out there, it is to create our own brand and identify the diversity of what we build, which hopefully will end up being a strength. But we have to do it at quality. We have to do it on time, and we have to show people that what they're actually going to see. We have to show gameplay, and I think I'm kind of beyond that. We have to put great games in the hands of our players. There's nothing else at this point.
Okay. He kind of goes back on what he says at that last.
Exactly, and I think that again, that's why a lot of people are taking his previous statements about the console stuff and running with it. And I think that there is a kernel of truth to what he says there, but at the same time, like it's in the moment. I think Phil's venting there, and it's just misconstrued. Where it's like, hey, at the end of the day, we need to put on great games. We need to put these games out there, and they need to be great. And hopefully, the showcase can show you what we have coming, but understandably so. And it's true, the showcase, no matter how great the showcase is, there is going to be that asterisk to it, which is unfortunate. Where it's like, okay, well, we need to see it.
We need to play something.
We need to play something, not see it. Yeah. We need to play these games. And I hope that we get some release dates for these games. And I think Phil, like he said, they're coming.
Even if we do, I hope it's not rushed. I hope it's, like we said before, they want to put out a game every quarter. I don't think we're there yet. Maybe every other quarter, but like, just don't rush it. Just let the games be completely finished.
To be kind of punny with it. Like, you don't want them to rush it. You want them to hi-fi rush it.
Yes. Just put out we want more games, obviously, but we want better quality games.
Yeah. So in closing with the Phil Spencer thing, because again, that was a very long segment, as I said. Thank God there wasn't a lot of news this week, because I would have had to cut so much to get all this in. I don't even know what I would have done. At the end of the day, I really appreciate and respect Phil Spencer. I think this is one of the best interviews from from a games industry person I've ever seen. He's just so candid, honest, blunt. Putting the failures on him, he's not going to pass the buck. He even says at one point, and there's not quoted, Phil even says, he's like, hey, it's only so many more of these, and there's somebody else here doing this.
Yeah.
Like Phil knows that like if I don't do my job, like I'm gonna get fired. Like that's what it is.
And I like Phil Spencer. I don't want.
I love Phil Spencer. This guy is like so relatable. When Reggie left video games, like when Reggie Fils-Aimé left Nintendo,
Phil Spencer became the next.
Phil Spencer became like that guy for me because it's like look, I look at PlayStation, and this isn't a knock against them as a games maker. Obviously, their games are phenomenal, and this is like in hindsight such a minuscule thing. When I look at PlayStation, I don't see any personality. I just see the brand PlayStation. Like this is PlayStation. This is what we are. We are the box that puts out these games. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, really. But for me, like as somebody, like I want to feel a connection. Like in wrestling, it's why I love AEW so much because I feel like I have a connection with the company. So like I just want to feel like I have that connection, and I feel that with Xbox and Nintendo. I don't even feel that connection with Nintendo at this point because like when Reggie left, it was like, okay, well, Doug Bowser's there, but Doug doesn't do anything. Like, there's no focal point at Nintendo who it's like, wow, man, like this person.
It's about the spokesperson, the person that.
Yeah, like somebody who's like, they're like, hey, like this person comes out. I like this person. Like, I like the way they talk to the community, the way they interact with the community, who they are, how they are as a person, and not, and Phil's that guy for Xbox. And
the reason I like Phil Spencer is not even for all those.
Well, I mean, I have other reasons too, but
yeah, it's just the turnaround that he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Immediately, it felt like, and it was like, okay, I think I like this.
And again, this vision that Phil has, or that Xbox has, it is Phil's vision. He's the head of Xbox. He took over after Don Matrick left, and Don Matrick screwed the Xbox brand with the Xbox One reveal.
Yeah.
And so Phil comes in and he's like, what's important? Backwards compatibility, which that's important to me, obviously. Game preservation. He's come out and talked about game preservation, how it's important to him. Just the ecosystem, the belief in it, value in Game Pass, like all of these things. I can't help but like I just believe in these things so strongly.
Yeah.
And I think that they're all beneficial to gaming. So I think Phil Spencer's great. I don't want him to go, and I hope that they can turn this around. I don't think Xbox is doomed.
No.
I think a lot of people again, it's that's extreme. But we got to hold them accountable, and what happened, and hopefully they do better. Enough of that, Devroro.
Yes. Let's move on to.
Let's talk about Zelda. Let's talk about The Legend of Zelda. And hold on, still not sponsored by Liquid Death, but just gonna I just got water all over my microphone. It's okay. No, it's fine.
Still not sponsored by Good and Gather, but.
Devroro, you can bring your own Liquid Death to the show. Liquid Death is expensive, and I don't got time for that. It's not that expensive. But it's actually more so, they're always sold out at retailers. Whenever I go, I don't like to buy them online. It's not Liquid Death's fault, but the last time I bought Liquid Death online,
some of the cans
they came destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's a shipping problem. That's not a problem with Liquid Death.
Yeah, of course.
So that's why I don't like to buy them online. But so when I go to the store, they usually only have like one 12-pack available. So I'm just like, well, this is what I'm working with for the next 2 weeks. That's why you don't get the Liquid Death when you come.
No, it's worth for me. So.
It's better though. Anyways, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom comes out this week, Thursday night. I'm going to midnight release. We should go to midnight release together. You want to go to GameStop Thursday night?
Thursday night?
Yeah, pick it up. I work at 7, so I mean I'm not playing it Thursday night, but I'm picking it up. No?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have it pre-ordered. If I can still pre-order it,
you can still pre-order. You can pre-order it that day. When you leave here, just go to the GameStop.
We'll do it after.
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
It's the one that's right by here, though. Anyway. So, obviously, we don't have Tears of the Kingdom to talk about because we've already talked about the previews and stuff like that. So I thought it would be fun to kind of go back on the Legend of Zelda franchise as a whole. This is not a tier list, this is not a rankings, but just kind of briefly talk about them. And I think the ones that we both played more in depth, we'll get into more of a discussion about. But I kind of want to just kind of I came into this with one thing that I like about each Zelda game, or one thing that I appreciate about each Zelda game.
Okay.
And so I think I put that in the script. Did you come up with things for the ones you've played, or are you just going to kind of go off the cuff?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the original Legend of Zelda, 1986, NES pops out, and video game crash happens, and this toy company from Japan comes out, put out Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong in arcades, and The Legend of Zelda. And This is obviously the foundation of the series. Something that I really appreciate about the original Legend of Zelda is how revolutionary it was. You look at the games of the time, like save files weren't a thing really. Like you had passwords. Like you were playing Metroid, you had to write down like a giant
Password.
10 thing password.
Yeah.
And even most games didn't even have a password system. It was just what it was at the time. And so Zelda comes out and they're like, "Hey, we have a save feature in our game. You don't have to write down the password. You don't have to do anything like that. You know, even like going left in a video game wasn't really a thing until Zelda came around. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, Adventure I think predates Zelda, but Adventure was garbage, so we're not gonna, whatever. Um, but at the end of the day, like that's what I love about the Legend of Zelda, the original one. Also, fun story about the theme, this iconic theme that has gone for 30 plus years. I don't know if you know this, but Koji Kondo he wrote the main theme in like a day. So they were going to use some I think it was either it was some classical music. I don't remember exactly. I should have looked it up for the sake of the story, but it was either like Mozart or like they were going to use something really classical, and it was copyrighted, so they couldn't use it. And so they were like, "Shit, Koji Kondo, just go write something." And this man, he said he went into the dungeon and wrote like the greatest piece of video game music of all time in like a day. It was like Friday afternoon, and like, all right, we'll see you Monday. Have that song ready. It doesn't need to be a banger, and it was a banger, Devin. It was. Zelda 2 is the black sheep of the franchise. I'm not gonna lie, it's my least favorite Zelda game, but music is great, so I appreciate the music for it. A Link to the Past. This game came out in '93, year I was born, so this was like before my time. And I understand like some people that say like it's the best Zelda game, and I totally respect that opinion, and I totally see it. Um, I love A Link to the Past because it sets the formula that I think is the best Zelda formula. I think that it is the perfect way to play a Zelda game, and you can build off of that formula, and you can make changes to the formula. But the base formula that's there, I think, is just A Link to the Past brings it in where it's like, okay, you're in the open world, explore the open world, find the dungeon, go to the dungeon, go through that dungeon, experience a great dungeon puzzles, great dungeon boss, great dungeon combat, get a cool new item, go back to the overworld, go back and explore the overworld some more, and have some great time in the overworld again. And you just kind of go through. And we could disagree on that. I think we have a fundamental disagreement on Zelda. I think maybe when we get to Breath of the Wild, we'll see. But
No,
I think that formula, obviously, you build off of that formula, but that formula is just so perfect. And A Link to the Past, A Link to the Past is the first step in the modern Zelda sphere because you have Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and they just happen. And obviously, Zelda 1 is just A Link to the Past, but like simpler.
Mhm.
But A Link to the Past just does everything so much better, and it's great.
I think it's a great formula. I just don't think it's. I think it's a great formula. I like playing games like this. You know.
Yeah, I love A Link to the Past. Again, this game was before my time, and like when I play this and I play the original Legend of Zelda, I love them so much. I think that A Link to the Past has like just incredible music. The art design's great. Again, I could say I love the music for most of the Zelda games on here, but I didn't want to use that as my thing for each one.
Yeah.
But the music is just phenomenal. The Past, it's just so much fun to play. It's so good. It's a game I would love for you to play at some point. Next up, we got Link's Awakening. This came out on the Game Boy. It later got a DX release on the Game Boy Color, and then also got an HD release in 2019. And no, I didn't write the years down. I'm just the years that I remember. I'm stating the ones I don't. I'm not stating. Link's Awakening is so charming, and that's what I love about it. It was originally a side project that the Zelda team was working on off the clock. Like they were just like originally the Zelda team was like, "Hey, do you think we could do Link to the Past or something like it on the Game Boy?" And like they were just like tinkering in the studio off the clock.
Did you say the year for this one or no?
Link's Awakening I think came out
1991.
91?
Oh, Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening
3.
Oh, Link to the Past 91. I am mixed up. I'm sorry. Link's Awakening came out the 93. And it was just so charming. It was a little side project for them. It was something that they were just working on, and eventually became a full-fledged project. And I love it for what it is. And I think the HD remake perfectly captures this charming side of it. Like it goes with like the chibi little toy route, while also this B-roll that we got playing. The opening cinematic is so cool. It's so good for Link's Awakening. But so that's why I love Link's Awakening for.
Yeah, this is one I have to play.
Link's Awakening is really, really good. I would say you just play the Switch one. But the Game Boy Color one was cool though because it also added because it was in color, it added a Game Boy Color dungeon where like all the puzzles were color based, and it gave you a really good reward, like a new tunic, which could either double your attack or half the damage you take. But like if you played it on the Game Boy, you wouldn't be able to do the puzzles because they're all color based. So you had to play it on the Game Boy Color,
Yeah,
which
cool.
smart from their side because make them buy a Game Boy Color, but also it
probably-
takes the tech and it utilizes the tech.
Which Nintendo always does.
They always do.
Yeah. For better or for worse.
Next up, one of the goats, Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time, it's part of my first gaming session. It is one of the two games that made me fall in love with games.
Before you finish, I looked
Yeah.
up the games by release date,
Sure.
and there's like 5 games in between.
Is it the BS Zelda games?
Well, the BS ones, there's 2 BS ones,
Yeah.
and then there's Zelda's Adventure, 1994.
Why am I talking about the CDI games?
I'm just saying,
I'm not talking about the
the
CDI.
Faces of Evil and the Wand.
Remember, this is a celebration of the Legend of Zelda. You want me to talk about the CDI games?
I'm just saying, you skipped a few. That's all.
Exactly. They're not included in this list.
Unless that you sent him.
I didn't send him a list. He looked up a list.
Okay.
I put in the script, B-roll, any and all Zelda games. LOL.
I am playing the Evolution of Zelda 1986 to 2003. This is listing all the games that actually matter.
Thank you, Jeff.
I didn't play those either.
No, because you're trolling right now.
I'm just
Okay. I'll give you this. The BS Zelda games were cool. They were because they were an experiment. So if you don't know, the BS Zelda games were basically one of them was a remake of the original Zelda. The other one I don't remember exactly. But they ran off the Link to the Past engine and were a Link to the Past, but Zelda 1 and something else. And basically, in Japan, you would connect your Super Nintendo to the internet, and it was kind of like a radio show that you were playing Zelda in during.
Yeah, I remember.
So it was like a time limit, and you had to go do the thing, and the story was going on while it was happening.
Mhm.
It's not a full release, so I didn't include it. I'm not going to talk about the CDI Zelda games. I think Nintendo really obviously fumbled their relationship with CDI. That is the all-time biggest Nintendo mistake. We can talk about the Wii U, but Nintendo fumbling that CD add-on led to the creation of PlayStation, which is like for them not good, but also their partnership with CDI was just terrible. So terrible. But anyway,
Okay. Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. It was part of my first gaming session of all time. It was a 1-2 punch for me where Mario 64 sucked me in, and Zelda Ocarina of Time was like, you're not going anywhere. Like you're here.
Yeah.
This is who you are now. It's not my favorite Zelda, which goes against the core philosophy that your first Zelda is your favorite Zelda. It's not my favorite Zelda. But it is so important to me and holds such a soft spot in my heart that like I will forever love Ocarina of Time for what it does. And it also goes that further route of the way, okay, Link to the Past set the formula for Zelda. Ocarina of Time was like, here's the formula in 3D.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's the first 3D game to really nail 3D, apart from Mario 64.
Yeah, for me, this is my Link to the Past. That's to you. This is Zelda should be like this in my opinion
Yes,
when I play games.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree because Ocarina takes the Link to the Past formula and adds to it.
Mhm.
I think that Ocarina of Time, you know, it's so revolutionary. Like, and that's why Zelda is such a revolutionary franchise. This is the first game that did Z targeting well.
Mhm.
You know, any game you've played that has Z targeting or like any type of targeting mechanic, this was the game that made it work. The
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Like,
And again, this game, this is
there's a lot in this game that, yeah. The music, the overworld,
Yeah.
while empty by today's standards, blew people away back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an incredible.
Which I don't know if I agree with the emptiness thing. Like I think
by today's standards, especially when you see what Majora's Mask does, Ocarina of Time's overworld, at least not Castletown, but overworld. The overworld is very barren. There's not a lot going on. If you ask me to be critical of Ocarina of Time, which I don't mind being, my one issue with the game, like my biggest issue, is the fact that I wish the open world had more to it.
Okay.
That's just me. I think believe it was a 99 or 100. It was it was the highest rated Metacritic game. I think it still is, but it was at one point the highest rated Metacritic game.
Yeah, I can't see it being any below 98.
You would be correct. It is rated a 99 out of 100, and it is still the highest game of all time on top of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Yep. Yeah, man. Again, I love Ocarina of Time. It's such a good game. It's just excellent, and I love it. I also want to point out the 3DS game. I appreciate it, the 3DS remake, for the quality of life features that are added. I think that I don't think Majora's Mask 3D is the essential way to play Majora's Mask, but I do think Ocarina 3D is probably the essential way to play Ocarina. I just wish that it was on a home console, not a 3DS. Who knows? Maybe that collection that Jeff Grubb swears exists does exist. I think it does. I think Tears of the Kingdom just kind of ruined their release plans for all the other ports and stuff. Because they don't care. They'll sit on the port for 4 years before they put it out.
Yeah, but also this game is way too to release in a pack. They're going to release this individually, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I love Ocarina of Time. But let's talk about Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is one of my favorite games of all time. And something that I like, there are a lot of things I could choose that I love about this game. The one thing that I choose about Majora's Mask that I just love, and I think that even to this day, games just haven't been able to replicate in a lot of ways. Some games have. I don't want to say no game has. I just love how alive this world feels. I think that like the characters that fill it, like it's for Majora's Mask, it's not about the overall narrative, but it's the narrative of the characters that make Majora's Mask such a masterpiece. Like just going from like in Clocktown, and like say it's day one and you're walking around and like people are like, everything's fine, nothing's wrong. This moon falling this is stupid. People are dumb. Everything's gonna be fine. You get to day 2, it's like, all right, well, carnival's gonna be fun. You get to day 3 and people are like, holy shit, we're gonna die. Like just each of these characters, every character in this game, every NPC in this game has a story to tell, has a routine that they go through the 3 days that like you need to like thank God the Bomber's Notebook's in this game, because it's like you can miss so many things. There are so many things you can miss in this game if you're not, staying in tune with the characters and what they're doing. And I think that at the end of the day, that is what Majora's Mask does better. And I will always be marveled at the fact, and this is a bonus. Another thing I appreciate about Majora's Mask is on the developer side, is the reflipping of development assets from Ocarina to make this game in about 8 months. Or 9 months, whatever it was. The fact that they made this game in under a year, and like sure, the dungeons, I think the dungeons are some of the weaker dungeons in 3D Zelda, but it is a masterpiece. And the fact they made it in the time they did, love it. Love the darker Zeldas too. What do you think about Majora's Mask?
It's not my favorite.
Okay.
I like Ocarina of Time more.
Okay.
The things I do like about this, the new mechanics they had, like I love the mask. I love changing into the characters, becoming the character. I love the darker tone of it. I think that's probably my favorite thing about it, the darker tone.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like these characters, these are people dealing with the probability of death. Like that's what you're dealing with here. Like you go to like all the areas and the sections of the land, like you go to Snowhead and you have these Gorons who are just like, yeah, we haven't eaten in days. Like we're like, and we don't do well in the cold either. Like this is not going well for us. Like there is a good chance that we are going to die. Like they don't even care about the moon. They're like, we're dying anyway.
And I agree with you that I think the best part of this game are the characters. The characters you run into, solving their problems, and then potentially going back in time and completely undoing it. Like I feel like that's a little painful. Yeah. Like I think that's the biggest part of the game for me.
Yeah, just going and like doing this cycle, and again, it's like it's not about it's like going through this cycle and like learning and being like, okay, so this is how I went down this cycle. What can I do differently to fix things? What can I do differently to help these people? And stuff like that. And again, it's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games of all time. It fluctuates between this and another game as my favorite Zelda game. I love it for what it is. The 3DS remake, something I appreciate about the 3DS remake, while I do have issues with it because it does make the game worse in some ways, I do appreciate, again, some of the quality of life improvements. Much like Ocarina 3D, there are some quality of life things here that are really nice. Um, the saving feature is a lot better in Majora, where like I understand why you don't want to be able to save midway through a 3-day cycle. It is kind of a pain to sit down and be like, okay, well, I need to set out the next 2 hours of my time to do this cycle. Otherwise, it's not worth my time doing sometimes. So I appreciate that. But yeah. Next up, the Oracle games, which came out on the Game Boy Color. I'm not super big fan of the Oracle games either. I played the first one a few months, like last month, and I'm gonna play the other one probably after Tears of the Kingdom because there's no chance I'm playing it before. I like the idea of having a game that links your games together to give you a final experience. Because that's what these games do. Basically, the Oracle games, you complete one, you get a code for the other game, and then you can link them for a final experience.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah. It's code based. And also, if you put the code in for the other game, I think some of the in-game experiences are different, which is cool. I also really like, and this is kind of like a small thing, I like that because these games came out after Ocarina and Majora, there are some things in the game that are in this game. And like it's just kind of off-putting to see these things in an 8-bit setting. Like for example, like the Song of Storms, like the windmill guy is in Oracle of Ages or Seasons, Oracle of Seasons.
Why is that off-putting?
Not off-putting, but it's like if someone told you that Nintendo had an official 8-bit Song of Storms track, you'd be like, I don't know if that's true, but it is. Yeah, it is pretty cool.
That's my favorite song.
You should check it. You should listen to it after the pod. There's a part of the world where he's just there and it just plays the Song of Storms in 8-bit, and it's really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But like even the B-roll that was the producer Jeff was playing, like it showed like the monkeys from Majora's Mask, and it's like oh wow, yeah, that's them in 8-bit. And the Oracle games just kind of do that, where it's like, huh, oh yeah, that's a thing that's I'm used to seeing in a 3D space, officially in an 8-bit space, and it's unique.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by off-putting. Not off-putting in a negative way. It's off-putting in a way of like, oh, that exists. Yeah, that's true. Officially exists, mind you. Four Swords. The original Four Swords. I thought it was a really cool experiment to do multiplayer 2D Zelda, and I think they further do it in a future game, which we'll get to in a little bit. Wind Waker. So to pick one thing, and again, this is a top 3 Zelda game for me. I love the art style. I think that this game is timeless in its art style and music. Again, music for all of them, really, but the art style for Wind Waker is just so perfect. It didn't even need an HD remake. Honestly, like if you look at GameCube gameplay, the only reason you need an HD remake is so that way you can have it on an HD console. But like the graphics itself on the GameCube, I don't have an issue with it. We started this last year. We didn't get to finish it. We were like about an hour and a half, 2 hours in.
Yeah, we played. So I played a little bit of it as a kid.
Yeah,
but not enough.
Yeah,
and then I played with you. We played about 2 hours.
Yeah,
actually, I think we played a little bit more than that.
It was probably like 4 or 5, but you didn't make it to like the second dungeon either.
No.
Well, I don't think you made it to the first dungeon, did you?
I think so.
Dragon Roost?
Yeah, we did Dragon Roost.
Okay.
I would start over if we played again.
Yeah, we would start
over. I haven't finished this game. This is probably a top 3 game for me over the other ones. I know that I would love this game if I just played it. All.
Yeah, you would. I told you. This is a Devroro Zelda game.
Yeah, and I think the reason I like this so much, I like the traversal. I like the traveling. I like the island aspect of it.
Yeah, it really
it gives you a reason to explore, and that's Zelda games. You kind of go to the dungeon and you're going to get your sword there. Whereas in this game, it feels like, oh, I can explore, and it still has some of the character based stuff in it too that I liked from Majora's Mask.
Right.
So yeah, I do like this one a lot.
Yeah, Wind Waker is incredible. It is just a phenomenal video game. HD remake again. It's the least needed of the remakes. I appreciate that the HD remake tweaks a late game quest. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it tweaks a late game quest to make it a little bit more manageable, a little bit more reasonable. Also, the Swift Sail is great. Four Swords Adventure. Again, this just kind of furthers my point about Four Swords, where I thought it was really cool for them to take this multiplayer idea concept and turn it into a bit more of a full-fledged game. It's cool. I appreciate it for that. Minish Cap. So this is actually one of the few Zelda games that I just haven't gotten around to beating yet.
Okay, you played it though.
Did we play?
No, yes, you've played it though. Right?
I've played it. Yes, I've put a lot of time into it. What always happens is that I'm a completionist. So like there's these kinstones in the game where you have to match them, and for one reason or another, I always hit like a roadblock where I can't match some of the kinstones, and then I kind of fizzle out and like try to start playing something else. It's always been timing for me because I didn't have Minish Cap as a kid, so it's a game that I have had only like as an adult, and just time gets in the way. But my favorite thing about Minish Cap is just how perspective works in that game. I think that changing size is such a cool idea, and like the boss of the first dungeon is a green shoe, which is like it's like such a weak standard Zelda enemy. Like in Wind Waker, you just mow these things down.
Yeah.
But like because of the change of perspective, it's like 100 times bigger than you, and it's just so cool. So like
Oh yeah, because you're smaller.
yeah, so like this random enemy, which is usually like a one sword slash you're done kind of enemy, it becomes a boss.
Breath of the Wild, you literally mow them down. You're on a horse and you just kill them as you run by.
Exactly.
So I think that is kind
So
of.
I think Minish Cap's really cool. I dig the art style out of Minish Cap. That GBA Zelda looks pretty good. Yeah. So I like Minish Cap for those things. I'm gonna go back and play it probably this year. Twilight Princess.
Well, you're forgetting one.
Which one did I forget?
Freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Ripeland came out in 2006. Don't forget that one. All right, go ahead.
Devroro.
Yeah.
You need to be stopped. I'm not going to talk about
You don't want to talk about Freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Ripeland?
Rupee Land? No, I'm not going to talk about the Tingle game that came out only in Europe and was weirdly perverted.
That's just Tingle.
That is just Tingle. You are correct on that.
Skip it then.
I'll tell you what, when they port it to America,
All right, that's fair.
then I'll talk about it.
That's fair.
They actually have another one, which you're going to bring up later in the list. Yeah, absolutely. It only came out in Japan. That one didn't even come out in Europe. That's how crazy. That's all you need to know about the first one. They were like, all right, sequel, maybe only Japan. All you need to know is they didn't put this game out in America, either of them. So what does that tell you? Twilight Princess. Another one, top 3 for me.
Okay.
I love the way I love Majora's Mask for its character narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the best overarching Zelda narrative.
If I had a list, this would probably be I thought about it, this would probably be my 4th favorite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once we're done with Tears of the Kingdom, we're going to do ranking lists and we're going to do all that. I think we're going to do a ranking list and a tier list and see how it shapes up.
Mm-hmm.
Because that'd be fun.
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
No, go ahead. You can say.
I was going to say about Twilight Princess. My favorite thing when I first started playing it, it started out as my least favorite thing about the game, and by the end of the game, it became my favorite thing. It's the most cinematic Zelda game that I've played. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like it at first because it was like everything kind of felt like a rail in the beginning. It was like, all right, but then there was a turning point in the game where it was like, I don't know why, I just like it. It felt the most story-like of all the Zelda games.
That's what I'm saying. It's the best overall narrative in the Zelda game.
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah, it's the narrative. I love the darker tones, which is why I'm very excited for Tears of the Kingdom, because I get the same vibes that I do Majora and Twilight in terms of that darker Zelda, which is what I want. It's got the dark tones, the narrative, the imagery is what, like, when you ask me to think of Zelda, like the franchise, Twilight Princess is what I think of. Like, I think for me, the ideal looking, like, designed Link is that Link. The ultimate Zelda is that design of Zelda. The Ganondorf is that design of Ganondorf. Maybe Ganondorf I could be swayed a little bit, but like for me, that's really what does it. Where it's just like this is what Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf should look like. This is like, I don't know, like that. Maybe that's like a weird thing to say, but like for me, that's like my favorite designs of those characters. But again, yeah, the narrative was just incredible. Dark tones, cinematic, like you said, just super cinematic. I know I was only saying one thing. I think Twilight Princess hosts the best dungeons in the franchise.
That's big. Yeah. I disagree with that.
Okay. Well, have we mentioned the game yet that you think is the best dungeons?
Yeah, I think Ocarina of Time probably has
Okay.
as the most. I guess I played it as a kid and it was like, okay, I can do this. Even the water dungeon, it was like, I like this.
I think Ocarina of Time has phenomenal dungeons too, but
Yeah.
I still give my
The reason I
pick
don't
spot.
go into Twilight Princess is because again, it is more linear in the way you play. Like it felt like
Really, I completely disagree. I think that Twilight Princess dungeons actually reward exploration in them because they have heart pieces in them.
yeah.
Whereas Ocarina doesn't do that. I think that it's a great idea for Zelda dungeons to have more treasure than just the item, and I think Twilight Princess does that, and it's really awesome.
All right. Yeah. For me, it isn't. But I like the game in general.
I think also Twilight Princess, the dungeons are laid out in a way that I like to explore dungeons. Where like okay, like some people there is some circling back in those dungeons where it's like okay, here's the main room and there's four different paths and like you're kind of gonna loop around each four paths. Like some people may not like that. I personally like that's how I organize playing a game even if it's not set up that way. Like I'm like okay, like I'm gonna explore this dungeon or this area. Let me start here, and then I'm gonna loop back and then go around. You know, kind of like bam, bam, like you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
point A to point B, and then back to point A, and then to point C, then back to point A,
Yeah.
and then point D, just to make sure I get everything. I don't want to miss things. Very meticulous, you know.
I think that's this game is very easy to get everything in a dungeon, and I think for me, I don't know why it takes away from the game a little bit.
Okay, I can
For the
understand.
dungeon aspect, I should say, not the whole game.
Yeah, the HD remake was good because I appreciated that it made the game look better. The dark tones look a little washy on the Wii and the GameCube. Admittedly, I didn't play the GameCube version because I played it on the Wii. I also appreciate that the HD version lets me play it like the GameCube version, where it's Link is back to being left-handed and it's not mirrored, and you can use controls. I like that. Next up, Phantom Hourglass.
Oh wait, you forgot Tingle's Balloon Fight.
Next up,
2007.
Next up, Phantom Hourglass.
Pop those balloons.
Next up, Phantom Hourglass. So again, this is like just being completely honest. This is again one of my least favorite Zelda games.
Man.
I appreciate that it continues the Wind Waker timeline. I appreciate that it kind of the Tetra's back and Link is back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I appreciate it for what it is. Not a fan of the DS gameplay. At least in this one, I think Spirit Tracks is a little bit better in the gameplay perspective.
Do you think that's what stopped it? If the gameplay was better, it would stick to you more?
Yeah, well, so another thing, and this is something people don't think about, is the game is I'm left-handed, and so
Yeah.
Spirit Tracks, if I recall correctly, has an option whether you're left or right-handed. Phantom Hourglass doesn't, so controlling it doesn't always work super well for me.
Yeah, no,
because I use my left hand for the stylus.
Yeah, that's a bit that could take you out of a game, so I get that.
I played the Wii too. I played with the Wii remote in my left hand.
Yeah.
And because of that, I did have like throughout the years of the Wii, like there would be like a lot of like issues where the Wii would be like, "Hey, you're not actually doing this right." And
Yeah.
like, I am. I'm just using my left hand. But yeah. So Phantom Hourglass. So you played Phantom Hourglass. What do you like about Phantom?
I don't know. I think just the game mechanics. I love it. I like the dungeon. I don't know. It was just a really fun game. I don't know if it's in this one or the other game, but there's like a whole part where there's a stamp. And
I was gonna bring that up. So that is in this game. I think Spirit Tracks does it too, but like also it is cool how they really utilize the DS.
Yeah, they really do. And like just having that bottom screen of the map there all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that game.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Those things are all great.
I love both of those games. We'll get to the other one, but yeah, I love both. And I think I like Spirit Tracks more than Phantom Hourglass.
Well, so do I. And next up is Spirit Tracks.
Well, there's two you missed this time. Link's Crossbow Training in 2007.
Okay, I'll talk about that one real quick then. That's fair.
Okay. And Ripen Tingle's Balloon Trip.
I'm not talking. There was three of them?
Balloon Trip of Love came out in
Was there
2009.
I think there was three Tingle
This
games.
one's for the DS. And I think this one came out in the US. Actually, maybe
No,
not.
it definitely didn't
It's
come out in the
okay.
US. It definitely didn't come out in the US.
It's Ripen
that would
Tingle's
happen.
Balloon Trip of Love.
Well, we're not now.
It's a sequel of Balloon Fight.
Link's crossbow training was cool because you got to shoot things as Link with a crossbow.
Mhm.
And that's pretty dope. And it was Twilight Princess Link, which again, I love. So okay, I'll give you that. I'll talk about that one briefly. That was cool. I have that too, actually. Came with the Wii Zapper.
Oh yeah.
Which it was funny because I got the Wii Zapper for Christmas one year because I really wanted to play the GoldenEye remake, and that GoldenEye remake was freaking dog shit. So I used the Wii Zapper and I was like, oh cool, I'll play Link's crossbow training real quick. Played that for like an hour and I was like, oh, this is cool. All right, time to play GoldenEye. And then I went back and played Link's crossbow training.
Yeah.
Was not good. let's see.
Spirit
Spirit Tracks. Yes, Spirit Tracks. Spirit Tracks. So little thing. I think it's better than Phantom Hourglass in almost every way. And I really like trains.
No, yeah, the train aspect.
I love
of the game
trains.
is probably the best thing about it. I think like riding on the rails and like changing rails back and forth.
So,
It's just
people. This is like a small thing about me that people just. It's not something that comes up, so it's like people don't know. But like, I think that like train travel and like trains in general, there is something that's like not romantic in like a love sense, but like there's something that's so romantic about like trains and just train travel. Like, I don't know. I'm weird. Maybe it's because I was obsessed with Thomas as a kid. But like, because that was my jam as a kid. Even as an adult, I like sometimes go back and like watch them just for the hell of it. But like, there's just something cool and magical about trains.
no, I agree
for
with
me.
that.
It's just
Traveling
cool.
by train is
Specifically steam engine. Obviously, diesels take a little bit of the fun out of it. And trains aren't what they used to be in terms of like fun and like exciting, magical type stuff. But like, yeah. So like,
even like electric trains that just go super fast. But like when you're going, I like the long travel trains.
yeah, like a scenic train.
Yeah.
There's a place up in New Hope that we go to. It's like the New Hope
Yeah,
train
you
station.
told me about it.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, so that's why I like
Looking
Spirit
at the
Tracks.
gameplay, like,
Trains, and it's better. It's better than
I'm getting
Phantom
nostalgic over
Hourglass.
this game.
Yeah. What do you like? That's cool. That's really cool. Trains are cool, man. I love trains.
Mhm.
Trains are great. I mean, yeah. Hey, I go over the bridge. You haven't played Skyward Sword, right? Or you have?
No, Skyward Sword I haven't played at all. The other ones I played a little bit of were finished with you. Skyward Sword
Right.
is one I.
We're gonna play that one too. I think we have plans. Um, so Skyward Sword for me,
It's a very pretty game.
it's a very pretty game. Um, and the music's great too. Okay, music. This is Zelda. For Skyward Sword, I think it's my least favorite 3D Zelda game. That doesn't mean I think it's a bad game. I do think it has some fundamental flaws that kind of make it repetitive and also not very enjoyable.
I also think that the way you play, like you're left-handed, so I think again this is another game.
Well, so I'm looking at this from the perspective even of going back on playing it the HD side when it was just controls.
Okay.
Which that is something I'll talk about the HD in a second, but um, I definitely enjoyed Skyward Sword much more around when I could play with like actual controls because you are correct. When I played it for the Wii, I was very frustrated by the controls because I couldn't get it to work because I'm left-handed. It was terrible actually. But so the thing that I love about Skyward Sword, above all other things, is I think Skyward Sword has some really underrated dungeon design. I think that the Ancient Cistern, for example, is like one of my favorite Zelda dungeons, and that's in this game. It is just an all-around great game in terms of dungeon design. Um, I don't think every single one of them is a home run, but like for example, like I think the first dungeon in which I think is called the Sky Temple. I think. Don't quote me on that. I forget what it's called because it's been a little while. But I think the first dungeon's really good. I think there's some really strong dungeons in this game. And yeah, that's the thing I choose to appreciate most about Skyward Sword is its dungeon because I just don't want to say music every time. Um, in terms of the HD version, really, really super appreciate the fact that they made it so you could do the Joy Cons or control scheme. And I think the control scheme works. I was shocked that they made it work, and it works. And I definitely enjoyed my playthrough of Skyward Sword HD much more than I did of the original Skyward Sword.
Okay. And this game, when we do play it, I think this game was partly spoiled for me. Like I kind of know how it ends. I do like the story of this game.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good story.
I don't want to spoil it, but there is a point, and this is another moment.
I mean, I kind of know, like I know about the Master Sword in this game. I know about, I think Ganondorf he's in this game with the whole mirror thing.
No, Ganondorf's not in this game.
Okay, then I'm just thinking of the Master Sword story. I know about her.
Yeah. So we have Fi. You know about Fi.
Yeah, which is the one? Which Zelda game is the whole thing with Ganondorf being trapped in a mirror? I think it is.
Trapped in a mirror?
Not a
Are you thinking of A Link Between Worlds?
Maybe.
He's trapped in a painting at that point.
Okay.
I know. I mean, in Twilight Princess, he gets sent
Princess.
through the
Okay,
mirror shards.
That's what I'm thinking.
He goes through the mirror to get sent to the Twilight Realm.
That's what it was.
Yeah. But so with, sorry, I lost my point. What was I saying? We were talking about Skyward Sword.
Yeah, Skyward Sword.
So the story lines. So Skyward Sword has a story beat in it at the end. Like when we talk about like memorable Zelda moments, Skyward Sword has those still, and I love it for that as well. There is a thing at the end that I just love so much. It is one of my all-time favorite moments in Zelda. And again, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think people that have played Skyward Sword would know what I'm talking about in terms of something that goes down after the last boss fight, something that's said by the last boss that just I love it.
Okay.
It's just so good. It gives me like total like Batman Joker vibes. Like I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to go too far into it, but yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're almost at the end here. Link Between Worlds. I love that A Link Between Worlds took A Link to the Past 20 years later, went back to the exact same Hyrule, and told a new story with new characters. And I just think that that was a really awesome experimentation of new and old.
That was actually a really fun game.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
All right. Next up was Triforce Heroes.
Before you get there, what do you Hyrule Warriors, the first one.
Oh yeah, Hyrule Warriors. I didn't include that. Hyrule Warriors is cool. It's a really cool game. It's a dynasty game. Hyrule Warriors is like the ultimate fanfare Zelda game.
Oh yeah.
If you're looking for like again, I talk about like Zelda ass games and like Zelda moments and like things that make me go like fuck yeah Zelda. That Hyrule Warriors is just
one of those.
packed with them. So that's great. Next up, Triforce Heroes. Next up is Breath of the. I have nothing to say about Triforce Heroes. I have nothing. I sat there and I was like, it doesn't do a better job than Four Swords in my opinion on the 2D on the co-op experience. It takes it and it's like it's level based still. Instead of 4 players, it's 3 players. I don't like the story. I don't like why Link's there. I don't like the costume idea. I think Link looks stupid in a lot of the costumes. I failed to get into this one. It is my least favorite Zelda game. Like I say Zelda 2 is, but like at least Zelda 2 I could sit there and be like, oh, I like the story a little bit and I like the music. I don't have anything like I'm sure like for what it is, it's a solid game. I don't think it's a bad game.
Looking at it, it looks pretty. Like
I just don't have anything nice to say about it. I don't think it does anything better than any other Zelda game. I don't think it does anything necessarily well or different.
I haven't played it. I don't know.
I guess you could say, okay, it's wireless co-op because it's on the 3DS as opposed to the Four Swords games require the GBA adapters, like the connectors. Like, okay, maybe that, but I don't know. I just don't have anything nice to say about it.
Gotcha.
It's a Zelda game. Breath of the Wild. I appreciate Breath of the Wild for the open world that it has and the scale that it has. I think Breath of the Wild is an excellent video game, but in terms of what I expect out of a Zelda game, it's bare bones, and we're going to disagree on that.
Absolutely.
I think that narrative-wise, it's a very weak narrative that is strung together by memories that happened in the past.
I'll give you that.
And number one, like I found them, but they're not easy to find. The narrative is very like you really need to like go looking for the narrative, which I'm okay with going looking to find more details, but I think the main narrative, like it's just not there. The lack of dungeons hurt the game. I think that how do I want to put this? It is the first Zelda game where I look at it and I'm like, do I even want to complete the Zelda game? Like, is this a game I want to complete?
To complete, I agree.
Because like and I think that like at the end of the day it does lack some structure, and I understand you're gonna take that as, oh well, you just want it to be linear. Not that I want it to be linear. I want there to be some structure. I don't like the fact that you can just walk to Ganon and fight Ganon in 15 minutes. I don't like that. I think that because of that, it discourages exploration more than it encourages. It does. No, it does. It does. It does.
Everything.
There are players who are like, okay, like I'm good with just going in there and doing it, and if you're good enough, you'll make it work.
No, that's absolutely. And I think that's cool. I can't do that. I'm gonna do all the beast, and I'll go get Ganon. But this game is everything about this game says go out and look at our world. Everything about this game is exploration. They built this game. They said we want you to explore every part of Hyrule, and then they built everything around it so that you go and get this. You go out and you just explore, and you're not punished for exploring either. You find a weapon, you don't have to. Oh, I have to be level 25 to use this weapon. No, you find this weapon, you can use this weapon no matter how strong or weak it is. There's everything in this game is a consumable except for the Master Sword, which I guess it is a consumable. I'll put that to the side for now. But everything in this game is a consumable, so it's always management, especially weapon management. So when you go up into when you see some enemies, your options are I can leave those alone. I can not fight them. I can fight them because maybe they have better weapons. And then you can. I'm not going to use my strong weapons because there's a Lionel. I can use my adventure sword, or I forget what it's called, my soldier sword.
Yeah, it's all very it's all very forgettable.
And I can go fight these enemies and not worry about it. But my flaming sword has many uses. I can keep it on my back and climb up a mountain, and it'll keep me warm. Or
yeah, look, I'm not trying to say that this game isn't incredible. I'm not saying that. I think that's where our disconnect always comes in about our disagreements about Breath
I think
of the
it's
Wild.
your reasoning why it's not as good as the others.
I think it's an excellent video game, but it's not an excellent Zelda game. I think that at the end of the day, like it does a lot of awesome, really cool stuff. But things that I want out of a Zelda game, whether you can disagree or agree or disagree, like there are no dungeons. I think that the Divine Beasts are not fun to play. Like to go in them, and the bosses, there's no bosses in the game. It's all the same Thunderblight, it's all the different kinds of the Blight Ganon. So there's not a lot of variety there. So there's no flavor, it feels like. There's no there's no dungeons, there's no different bosses. Runes replacing items is fine. I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily love it either.
Because you're not supposed to go out. You're Link. You are the youngest soldier who ever graduated from Hyrule Academy.
Most people don't even know that because the narrative just isn't.
They say it in the game.
I know they say it, but I'm just saying like you have to really go and look for those memories to get that stuff.
But again, you are Link. You are already capable of everything. Any weapon you put in Link's hand is a weapon,
and that's fine.
Down to a stick.
But
your job is to go out and just explore. That's it.
Yeah, but going further on my point, like I don't think the music outside of Kaz's theme, and there is some very nice like because the style of music is not what they're going. It's a different intention.
Yeah.
But I think the music largely remains unmemorable to me. Which compared to every other game, like there are not bad Zelda games because I don't think there's such a thing as a bad Zelda game. But there are games in this franchise that I look at, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. But I still look at the music and I'm like, yeah, but that music is still dope. Like outside of Kaz's theme in Breath of the Wild, like there's not really much there, and like
There is though. You're not counting the ambient music of just traveling.
I understand that, and the ambient music is great, but it's not something that I look back on. I'm like, man, I can't wait to listen to this ambient music again. Like,
but it's not just one song. The ambient music. It's a bunch of songs at different times. When it's raining, when it's storming outside, Song of the Storm plays in the background on the piano.
I get that.
When you're around Fairy Fountain, when you're standing in Fairy Fountain, it's just Fairy Fountain's theme song. When you're around it, it's the piano music of Fairy.
I understand that, and again, you're making great arguments, and I'm not saying I don't love Breath of the Wild.
But your arguments don't make sense to me because it's there, it's in the game, it's there, it's right there. I played it. It's in.
It just for me, it just doesn't like. There are moments and glimpses, but it's not. I don't know.
I get that it's not for you. I honestly do believe it's the linear aspect of the game.
It's not the linear aspect of it.
You have to think of
my least favorite thing about Breath of the Wild.
Your most favorite game right now, I know it changes, is the most linear game.
I just don't think it's not about being linear because I didn't mind exploring the world in Breath of the Wild, and
maybe it's the formula of like going to a dungeon, getting a weapon that unlocks another dungeon that you go to, and it's like that formula that you.
I do like that formula a lot. I think that, and I do feel very confident that Tears of the Kingdom has dungeons at this point, based off previews and what people are saying. Mm-hmm. Will the lack of dungeons mean that I dislike Tears of the Kingdom? No, because I don't dislike Breath of the Wild. Mm-hmm. I do troll you a little bit, like when we were playing. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't mean that. Like I enjoyed Breath of the Wild.
I do enjoy it. I know.
I love it. It's a great game.
It's just that some of the things that would, if dungeons were in this game, it would be a lesser game. Honestly,
I don't think so. I disagree.
Be a lesser.
I think that the Divine Beast, that is something I will legitimately stand by. That I think the Divine Beasts are not fun they're not fun puzzles, and the boss is very underwhelming in a sense that like. They're all the same boss with a slightly different attack formation, and it's like it's underwhelming. Like you do one, like that's my thing. You do one Divine Beast, you've done them all. There's like there's not a lot of differentiation there. And then I also feel that way about the shrines in the sense that like while the shrines have different puzzles in them, like they all just feel so samey that they just blend together. And like the overworld of Hyrule, and this is what's so crazy about it, because Breath of the Wild's like Hyrule is not that. It has the Gerudo Desert. It has the snow peak or whatever it's called. It has the Rudo area. It has villages. It has the seaside. It has little bay villages. It has Hyrule Castle. It has Death Mountain. It has so many different locations. And yet, like, I feel like they put so much time into the overworld, which is great, that like, why couldn't the dungeons? Well, number one, there's not dungeons, but like, why couldn't the shrines be like about those areas, themed around those areas? Why couldn't the game just be a little like I don't know, like it's weird to say. Like I find it to be kind of unmemorable. Like I want to play as Link and I want to be like look to your left. You see that Link right there in that poster with the shield and the Master Sword? That's what I want. I want like the fact that you can't get that shield until you go to the dungeon of Hyrule Castle, which you didn't even know about. Like the dungeon, like you can go to the basement of Hyrule Castle and get that shield.
Oh yeah, I did know about it.
Yeah, but I told you about it. I think.
No,
You were like, oh, you can? I was like, yeah.
outside the castle, you can get it from outside the castle. There's like a little area, like a water. If you cross that lake, you can blow up this wall.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's the basement of the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know about it.
But I'm just saying, like, I don't know, like, I want that shield and I want the sword that doesn't break, and like the fact the Master Sword breaks, like even when it's fully powered, it's underwhelming.
It's because it's a take away from the game. Everything in this game is a consumable. The minute you give someone a sword that doesn't break, what's the point of exploring?
Yeah. Well, as much as I want to keep talking about Breath of the Wild, we're gonna have to move on a little bit because we are getting a little stretched for time here.
Yeah.
Real quickly, lastly, Age of Calamity came out. It was the last Zelda release. Great gameplay. I thought I was going to love this game. The story was BS, and it became a what if didn't actually happen scenario. I was loving it until I realized that it wasn't canon. When I found out it wasn't canon, I was like so instantly taken out.
Yeah, there was so I didn't play it, but I heard like there were so many things they could have done. They could have just told.
So what's
the
cool
story
is
of-
here's what's cool about it. So they make it seem like it is what leads up to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
And I was loving it. It's kind of like that. Again, like I like the darker Zelda, so like to see like okay, this is the downfall
Yeah.
of Hyrule. Like this is where we're gonna see it. And so like they're going that route, and then you do this level where like okay, this is it. This is where it's happening. And then like the champions from the not the champions that die in Breath of the Wild, the new champions. They come back from the future because of this character that like this little robot that has time travel. It brings them back to save the day, and you end up beating Calamity Ganon in the past, and Breath of the Wild doesn't happen. And I'm like, what? Why did you do this?
Yeah.
Like, and like they were killing it from a narrative perspective leading into it, like where it's like, oh, this is getting good. Like we're like the levels like Hyrule Castle under attack, King Rome is in danger. Like what? Like oh my god! Like he like it's not looking good. Like we're screwed here.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden it's like, don't worry guys, everything's fine. Breath of the Wild didn't happen in this timeline. And I'm like, I understand Zelda, so you can mess with timelines, but like, it left such a bad taste in my mouth.
No, I get that.
Like this could have been like a really good companion piece, like a must play for Breath of the Wild moving forward, and it ends up just not being that.
It could have been. What was the Star Wars movie?
Rogue One.
Rogue One. It
Yeah,
could have been the
it could,
Rogue One.
that's what I'm saying. It should have been the Rogue One
Yeah.
of the Zelda
I
franchise.
guess they didn't want to kill anyone off or anything like that, which it would have been.
It wouldn't have killed anyone off though. I mean, we already know they die.
Yeah.
So like, what are you gonna do?
I didn't play this one. I think you did. I'm not sure.
I did.
No, this is another one. Cadence of Hyrule. That's another one on the list.
I played it. Okay, It's
so you
fun.
like it,
Yeah, it's challenging because it's rhythm based, but it's fun.
yeah. Okay. Then yeah, I think we did it all.
Yep, that's the Zelda franchise. Two really long topics back to back, which led to a really good show. Again, thank God there wasn't a lot of news headlines. 'Cause, I don't know. But I'm very excited for Tears of the Kingdom. Very excited. I'm going to be picking it up Thursday at midnight. Probably won't get to play it till Friday afternoon, but it's fine. It is what it is. But I'm very excited for this game.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's gonna just about do it for us here at the Game Room Podcast. This is episode 25. Please leave a like and subscribe if you're listening to us. Thank you for everyone hanging out today. It was great to see TJ and great to see Unknown Error, amongst others. Follow us on our social medias in the description below. Devroro is not available on social media. Don't try to follow him. He will call the cops on you if you follow him.
Absolutely.
But next time we talk, we're gonna be talking Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom again.
Yeah.
Not a review. Probably won't be a review.
His first thoughts.
It's gonna be like, hey, we're a couple hours in. Where are we at?
Yeah.
But yeah, until next time, we will see you guys next week. See you later.